People fell down several times. Our shins were bloodied and cut. And if we kept going, someone was going to get really hurt.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. In this episode, I talked to good friends of the podcast, Tate Hieronymus and Ron Reed, and Bandit 2, all about their BC-19 expedition out there in Northern California and what actually all went down. So you're not going to want to miss this episode. If you're new to the podcast, make sure that you subscribe. Doesn't cost a thing. And do me a favor, please share this episode with a friend. That also doesn't cost a thing either. I've already taken up enough of your time, so let's get on with this week's episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. All right, Bigfoot Society, I've got the privilege of talking to Mr. Tate Hieronymus and Mr. Ron Reed about their BC-19 expedition. They are still out there in the California area, the Northern California area. But Tate and Ron, how are we doing today?
Beat up and battered.
Yeah.
I've heard some things and I've read some things, but I haven't read and watched all of it because I wanted to hear the story directly from you guys.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Let's start with this. Where are you guys at right now?
We're actually on the side of the China Flat Museum in Willow Creek, California.
Yep, that's where they have a lot of the famous Bigfoot collection, the footprints, original footprint casts of
Bob Titmus, Al Hodgson, and like all these just different original tracks from the Bluff Creek area are here.
That's awesome. So it's like the museum where you have the very large wooden cutout of the Bigfoot on the side of the museum, right?
Yeah, yep, that's right there.
We're pretty close to the Jim McLaren Omaha statue as well.
Yeah, I had some biscuits and gravy, some hash browns at the Bigfoot Steakhouse. It's like my place to go to anytime I'm here in town. So, yeah, it's the first time Ron had a steak there at the Bigfoot Steakhouse.
Ron, how is Bandit doing?
Bandit's doing good. He's anxious right now because there's some dogs just across the field here.
Even more dogs are coming.
Yeah, everyone's bringing their dogs here to hang out in the shade next to the museum. I don't know what that's about, but he's doing okay. He's been walking around with me. He's been following me on all my little adventures up and down the trails, looking for hair samples out in Bluff Creek. So he's doing pretty good right now.
I don't want to assume that all listeners know who you guys are, because I do have some new ones because of recent episodes. So do you mind if we take a few minutes? Tate, I'll have you introduce what listeners should know about who you are, and then we'll head on over to Ron.
Yeah, let me address the elephant in the room. So any people listening, there's a lot of background noise, is because we're in town and we're doing the interview. We had this scheduled. So we did the first one with you a while back before this trip, and this is the follow-up. And so we're in town doing that. That's what the background noise is. But that's to get the elephant out of the elephant in the room, to address that. But okay, me. I'm Tate Hieronymus, and I am a Bigfoot researcher. I've been researching Bigfoot in California, Florida, a couple times in Oregon, and once in Washington, kind of all over the U.S. And then I've been working on my documentary series, Sasquatch: A Search for Sabe, and that's what we're currently up here for. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, my name's Ron. I've been a researcher for I'm like as an armchair and field researcher. I've almost hit 20 years, I think. It's like I'm like 18 years in it. But I manage a Facebook page called Trailing Giants, where I'm going to have some content blossom from that. And I don't know. I guess I'm a Bigfoot researcher, and I've got a little training and certification in environmental field technician role, and that's got some emphasis on conducting wildlife surveys and stuff like that. And then my dog Bandit has been my Bigfooting travel companion for 12 years now.
And he's a great dog. Listeners, if you haven't already, there's like 70 episodes with Tate because he's the man. And there is one full episode with Ron. I'll have those linked in the show notes so you can go back and find out some more about these guys from earlier as well. But you guys are specifically out there in Northern California for the expedition. I'm really excited to hear how that went. The great news is that you guys are alive, which is, number one. We can tell that because we're talking to you. But how did things go for you guys?
Well, we didn't really go 19 miles. We went not even 1 mile. Let's just address that real quickly. We were kind of aware, like, that beginning part of the hike was going to be really, really, like, hard. But we didn't think it was going to be, like, a constant battle the whole way through with no breaks in between. So, it started out fine, but nature has a really good way of humbling you. And it just shows you how hard the terrain is here in the area. How far did we get? We didn't even get a mile.
Yeah, we had gone a mile in and then hiked a mile out.
And we were physically exhausted and drained. And it's like, if we kept going, we were going to get hurt. And Kip Morrill was really good in suggesting that we turn around and go back and camp at this one spot we kind of saw earlier in the day. And that's basically what we did. We hiked up and we turned around and went back because we were just all exhausted. My feet were killing me. People fell down several times. Our shins were bloodied and cut. And if we kept going, someone was going to get really hurt. And so Kip made the suggestion and we all agreed on it. And that's what we did. And because of it, everything worked out for the best.
I'm pretty sure that Kip probably saved at least one life or kept people from getting very hurt. So I'm glad that you guys made that decision.
Yeah, the weird thing was when we were doing it, it's like when we were standing up and walking, we felt like we had energy, but as soon as we sat down and lay down for a minute, our bodies could feel the fatigue, and we were like, oh man. Yeah, if we kept going, we were going to try before the daylight ends. And you're walking downstream, and it's not like little rocks. You're boulder hopping over like 5 foot tall boulders and logs and bushwhacking and creek crossing. And some of the creek crossing areas, the current's pretty strong and you're up to your waist in it. So it was definitely a wise decision to do what we did. And even though we didn't reach our goal, we still got to see areas of Bluff Creek I don't think anybody has seen in I don't know how long.
Yeah, I mean, we only made it that 1 mile up, but we didn't see a single piece of trash or litter.
Nope.
From any time. Like, I was expecting to see like an old Coors can from like 40 years ago with some drunk that made his way up there, but not even that. Just like no trash, no wrappers, no anything. Like that was a little weird.
And just so that listeners are aware, if you forget the other interview, you were hiking up the middle of the creek, which, I mean, these are rapids, very high water. You're trying to, go over wet logs and stones and potentially almost twisting your ankle or worse.
Yeah, it was definitely not for the faint of heart. And I think the other reason we turned around is because we realized our packs are also just a lot of weight. Like, without our packs, it would have been a lot more doable. I think we were talking about this when we camped that night. We were just like thinking, man, if you really wanted to do this, you could, but it would still be a pain in the butt. You would have to have like a 20-pound pack with just the bare essentials of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's really about it.
Essentially, like we had determined, like you'd have to run the 4-mile distance until our next checkpoint with ultralight gear that if you got hurt, you could overnight it and you'd have provisions.
Right.
To get such a loadout down to a science, you'd really have to like be into backpacking for several years. Like I think I have some suggestions to get that weight down, but then I don't know. It was just like we weren't really equipped for an ultralight hike, and the conditions were pretty brutal, unforgiving, and there was never a survey or any body of information of how long that was going to be like that, and whether or not there would be game trails we could dive off and walk for half a mile or so. We were really hoping there would be something working in our favor. And then once we started our hike, it was just the same poor working against us conditions like the whole mile.
And it wasn't
and we predicted that was going to continue
for a while.
For the 4-mile stretch.
Yeah, because it wasn't like you boulder hopped a few boulders for about 50 feet, and then there's like 100 feet of, flat creek walk. No, it was like boulder hopping 5-foot rocks and another 5-foot boulder hopping creek crossing. Then you bushwhack, then you go back into the creek, then you boulder hop over into the more bushwhacking. It was just one thing after another. I took the first spill of the hike. No, I don't think anybody saw it, but it's on GoPro. And honestly, it was kind of refreshing pulling down that cold water creek because it gets hot up there when you're hiking that. But nobody got seriously hurt, which is the main thing. And again, it's just a cool story to tell now, and then it's gonna give us a lot more information when we revisit this in the future for sure.
Absolutely. Ron, how did Bandit do with going through that water? It seemed like it was pretty deep from what I've heard.
So we'd find out that the water wasn't really the issue with Bandit. So, there was stuff that none of us would cross, right? There was white water torrents. Even if we dug in our poles and we just fought it, we were top heavy and we would have tumbled over and all of our camera equipment would have been ruined. So we were avoiding a lot of the water that would sweep Bandit downstream because it'd sweep anybody downstream. Bandit had some trouble like getting up and over the boulders. And, looking at it now, he's a 13-year-old dog, and I don't really know. We were wondering if he could navigate his own way around some areas along stream banks, but those steep canyon walls wouldn't really allow him to do that. So, I had like a life jacket on him with a handle, and I picked him up like a suitcase for every rock, every boulder that I had to then climb up myself. And Bandit was kind of the smart old man, and he just kind of looked at me and was like, I'm not going to try to jump over that. I can't do that, So he really just had to plant feet once I picked him up and lifted him to that level. And but that started to take a toll on like my lower back after doing that for a full day, 7 or 8 hours of hiking. And it was like, and I was lifting a 60-pound pack and a 70-pound dog. And it was like, it was a little bit too much after a while. And I started to feel that strain. And I knew that if I left Bandit to his own devices, he was just going to stay in one spot or injure himself trying to navigate around. So he tried a little bit, but mostly he just kind of looked at me like, I'm not capable of doing this, so you're helping me, right, Dad?
Right. Yeah, there you go. Yep. You're the dog dad, so you got to make it happen.
But the water aspect of it, that was one thing, is Bandit was as little as he would put effort. He was tired, being lifted and picked around and stuff. But when we get in the water, he still had enough reserve strength. I was kind of impressed with him. He was still a strong swimmer. And all I had to do was like guide him in the right direction when we got across those stream crossings. He's become quite the swimmer. We've been doing a little bit of swimming in creeks and stuff, and I put his life jacket, and that's kind of like, as he's older and he has a little bit of arthritis and stuff, we do that what they call it, aqua therapy or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
And so that was really in some cases that was a strong suit. But there were a few times Tate had to wade halfway out and catch him before he got swept into a current. So
Yeah.
just definitely work that we had to work out. Like, Jonathan had to help me pick Bandit up a little bit, and Tate had to wade out and meet me halfway in some of the stronger currents. And I'd hand off the dog to him. I'd cross twice because I'd cross, drop my pack, come back for the
That'd
dog.
be 3 times.
Yeah, I had to wade back out. Yeah, so I had to go across the stream crossings like 3 times. And then like Kip was staying pretty busy trying to find the pathways that all of us could walk. His situational awareness as a retired firefighter, like he was really like blazing the trail and helping us find out where to plant our feet.
And blazing the trail, I think it was a team effort because we would look at a creek crossing and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Where should we cross? It was really methodical of how we would do it so we wouldn't get hurt.
I was the rock climber. I tried to get the high ground and look down and see what we could see.
So everybody had an important role on the hike because of those people. I think maybe if it had been other people, things would have gone worse.
Yeah.
Like you never know, like what the situation. But like I know with the group of people that we had for sure, it went really well. Yeah, it's definitely would kick your butt. It was funny because the day of the hike, Glenn was like, ground dwarf. He was like, yeah, I'm not feeling good, so I'm going to stay back. And we get back after the hike, and he's like, yeah, I knew it was going to be a pain, so that's why I didn't go.
How many people ended up going on the BC-19 then?
So it was myself, Ron, Kit Morrill, and Jonathan Easley and Bandit.
Okay, gotcha. Were you guys able to get actual footage of the of that mile of hike?
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah, so that'll be out in the Search for Sabe episode, coming out probably in a few months. It'll also be in Western Bigfoot Explorations documentary, Jonathan Easley's, and then I'm sure you were gonna have.
I'll work it into something somewhere
on Facebook and all.
Yeah.
So yeah, the hike, unfortunately we didn't reach our goal, but things worked out for the best. And you know what? There's going to be a lot of people. There's definitely a lot of eyes looking on me. I know that because I talked about it a lot. But at the same time, it's like the people that went on the hike had the balls to do it, and we saw parts of Bluff Creek that nobody's seen in a long time. And obviously doing this, it's going to be better. It helps us to go about the hike differently when we revisit this in a couple of years.
Yeah. Kip kept telling me, we talk about this after the fact, and he kept telling us, hindsight's 20/20, and going into it, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And so like now, like all the times that we were out there wondering, well, how did we get in this situation? Oh, it's because we didn't get this beforehand, so now, we'll be doing, if we reattempt something like it, we'll do some more scouting and take a few less risks. Like I think Bandit's retired from any Bluff Creek hiking. He's still doing a lot of like trail walking and stuff with me, but I would never ask him to go through a creek like that again.
Yeah, so we do plan on revisiting this in the future. We have a better game plan. I don't really want to say what that is because, for one, I don't really want to be responsible for anybody else trying our game plan and getting hurt because of it. So I'm not saying that the plan is, but we do have a plan. I think we have a longer time frame of what the time frame should be to do the hike, because the place where we're gonna start out next time you could hike up a 1 mile and then it could be really bad. So you don't really know how bad the creek will be. Because 19 miles of that creek, I think maybe 5 or 6 miles of it, maybe 8 have been explored total. So that's still like 10 miles of creek that's unexplored.
Yeah.
So that could all be very bad, you know.
You decided we're not going to go any further, and you had the emergency camp. You had to make emergency camp. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like to have to make an emergency camp that wasn't the place that you were planning to stay at that night?
Yeah, so it was, let me put this in perspective. Like boulder crossing, you're talking about 5-foot rocks, and then one after another, bushwhacking. Like, how could they only make it not even a mile in a day? How many hours did it take? It took like 4 or 5 hours to just do what we did.
Yeah, I thought we did 6 or more.
So 6 hours.
Oh no, maybe you're right. Yeah,
5 or 6 hours.
Something and stopped around 5.
Yeah, so it was a long time. That just shows you how bad the terrain is. And then there was 4 more miles you had to do, and I think there was only 4 hours of daylight left with 4 miles left of creek walking.
Yeah.
There's no way we're going to make it. And so to make the decision, it was a little disappointing, but it was the right call in the end, like I said. And the place we found wasn't terrible. It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. It was actually, after taking some time to get the camp ready, it was kind of comfortable. It worked, you know.
Yeah, I think Ron was like, if you spend a couple more days there, you could get it pretty nice to camp at for a few days.
Yeah, you had to. I was constantly digging rocks out from under my back as I was laying there. But then it's like, once you get a good bed laid out, then it wouldn't be bad.
And like, you're underneath this overhang. There's like a creek right there. You're where nobody can get to you, so you're pretty safe from human wise. Any animal activity, you'll hear them coming for sure. And the stars are beautiful right there. And it's pretty cool, cowboy camping just on the creek like that. And cowboy camping on the creek where nobody has probably cowboy camped or camped ever.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So as far as I know, we're the first people to do that. So that was special.
And at the end of the day, you did get to a spot that was pretty remote, which is awesome. And it sounds like in the future, this may lead to even further expeditions, which would be very cool. So did you guys go back to the headwaters to exit the expedition, or what was your kind of, how did you leave this whole creek area?
Yeah, so you have to exit where you started from. Either side of you is probably 400 feet canyon walls that you're not going to climb out of. You're going to have to walk back the way you came. So we walked upstream when we started the hike, and we had to walk down the same stream, which hiking downstream is actually more dangerous than hiking upstream. Because when you're hiking downstream with slippery rocks, the current is working with you, and it could sweep you off your feet a lot easier than if you were walking against the current, which that sounds kind of backwards, but it's not. I think anybody who's done a lot of creek walking would probably say the same. It's better to go upstream than downstream if you're doing a creek. There's a lot less risk involved by doing so.
Absolutely. And so after you made it out of the creek, and then I would assume you were making some phone calls, was it then go up to the film site, or what was the you kind of had to make new plans pretty quick of what you were going to do, I would guess.
Yeah, we kind of abandoned the hike idea to table it for a future year. And then we just kind of focused on doing research at that point. So I think we stayed at the cell site. We went down to the berm one night. We went down, and then we just drove all around the whole Bluff Creek area, just camping around different spots and stuff like that. And that's really how the rest of the trip went, was just hitting up different spots we wanted to camp at for a few nights. And, it worked out okay. So it wasn't like a waste of time or anything. It was all good. Obviously, like I said, there's going to be a lot more planning we're going to do for this hike in the future. So when we do it, we can get to our goal and reach it, and stuff. But we did go down to the film site for a few hours.
Yeah, we hung out. We had a good time down there.
Yeah, and then actually the day we were going to go to No-Go Valley, we actually went to the film site instead. But there was it a couple? I think it was a couple, right?
Yeah.
It was Aaron. So it was Aaron, and I can't remember what his name was that was with Aaron. But they recognized us, apparently, because Jonathan went and talked to them, and I guess she's like, "Oh, I know you, Jonathan," and she like watched Jonathan's videos, and then I came up, "Oh, it's you, Tate," and then I was like, "Ron's over there with Bandit," and she's like, "Oh my God," and she saw us from like Small Town Monsters and stuff, and she had Robert Leiderman's Bluff Creek Project book, and so me and Ron signed that for her, and Jonathan and Ron and I took pictures with her, and was it her boyfriend or husband? I'm not sure.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Whoever she was with, we took pictures with them and stuff. So that was cool. We got recognized for our hard work.
There you go. So how did the film site look when you guys got down there? Did it look the same as the last time you were, or any changes?
I think some of the gravel got redistributed from some waters, some rains and stuff, and snow melt.
Yeah, and it looked a little more clear in there because the Bluff Creek Project, they'll just kind of remove dead trees that have fallen over to kind of clear the path. They don't cut any live trees at all. So it's just mostly just clear cutting, just like deadfall and dead trees that have broken over, just kind of getting those out of the way so the film site can be less cluttered. So it's kind of what they do.
I don't want to have you give away the farm, Tate, because I know you are coming out with some things for your YouTube channel. Is there any interesting things that happened when you guys were camping around the area there?
Should I just say no comment?
What do you think? It's
no comment.
All right, fair enough. Hey, who else was with the group? Once I would assume the group was bigger once you were at Los Camp, right?
We never actually camped at last camp.
Okay.
Actually, no. But no, like after the hike, it was me. After the hike, we went to Twin Lakes, and it was you, me, Robert's son Patrick, Stevie, Terry, and Richard. He camped a couple of nights with them. He had an interesting thing with his car that happened, so that was fun.
Yeah, he's got quite the blog write-up and a video as well. I'll have those links in the show notes so people can check that out too. But it sounds like Richard had quite the time getting out of there.
And then there was one. Should we mention what happened
with? Oh, what with him like walking?
No, the hill.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, we
don't have to. No, you don't have to.
We had some more misadventures with Bandit. He was I kind of accustomed with how dark it is out there, and I'm pretty convinced like he can still see pretty good at night, but without any like light pollution and without like a full moon, like he couldn't see all that well. And so we were hiking some high ridges, and Bandit like tumbled off an edge, and to like slide down 20 something feet and grab him and help him get back up. So we had a lot. This was like the trip of close calls.
It really was.
The whole BC-19 and all of the danger from that. We had Bandit fall off a cliff. We had a flat, like Richard's, like
a
flat tire and stuff.
And a bee sting that was really bad.
And then we had I almost messed up my car.
You got stuck on a rock.
But Tate had a winch.
We had a winch him off the rock
to pull me off of it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but I mean, we're no worse for wear. But,
wow.
Yeah, I think that's if anything, that's what made the trip pretty memorable.
It's like
all the misadventures that we had.
Every trip we come up here seems to have a theme for the whole trip. Like last year, the theme was finding evidence. This year, the trip was close calls. The 2021, it was just a bunch of action we were getting. So it's like each year has a different theme, and you never know what the theme is going to be.
Were we lucky in terms of like finding Bigfoot this year?
I don't know.
We've had better
we'll never know.
our audio recordings and stuff that we haven't played back yet. But in the sense of like, did we come out of Bluff Creek alive despite the presence of danger? Yeah, so we were still lucky in that regard.
We were joking about the BC-19 hike for like after hike interviews, and we put one of our arms in our shirts, and like what did you say?
We were acting like we're gonna end up losing limbs, and just at the end of the post interview, it'd be like, oh, we learned something.
You're missing out. But well, we did learn something, but we still have all of our limbs, so that's good.
Yeah.
So all of our limbs are attached to our body.
Who was it that called it the BC-1?
I think it was Steven.
Oh, well, I think I heard Kip and Jonathan say it too.
Oh, I think it was Kip and Jonathan. The BC-1.
You should make T-shirts with the 9 crossed out. That would be pretty awesome. But it's for good reason that was the BC-1. So, oh man.
Hey, we're gonna return with vengeance, and we're gonna accomplish the hike. And as far as I know of,
I think that one thing I took away from it too was we went through such rough country that Bigfoot himself wouldn't go through there.
No.
So it's easier for me to say, well, hey, we were thinking about alternate access points, and now that idea does make a lot of sense because nothing's just going along those barren canyon walls and just hanging out. You know, like that's like where you chase Bigfoot at the end of the monster movie, and it doesn't have anywhere to go, and then all the hunters like shoot it. Like, yeah, but that's not a place he would actively choose to go and live. You know?
No. It's not even a place where animals should choose to go. There's no rhyme or reason for them to go in that canyon.
Yeah, there's better water access throughout 6 Rivers, so we just went there because we thought we could, and then we had to reevaluate a little bit.
So yeah, I mean, it was cool. Cool to see what we saw, and it's experience what we all won't forget. And like I said, I'm excited to revisit this in the future.
Absolutely.
So there's going to be a lot things that we do a lot differently this time, a lot more planning, a longer time frame, stuff like that. And there's always going to be naysayers about this hike. I know that people are going to comment, "Oh, they're doing this and that." Or they're going to say some kind of garbage. You know how it goes, Jeremiah.
Yeah, maybe, but who cares? That's where I'm. That's where I'm at. They can say what they want, so it's whatever. Hey, I've got a question that maybe I'm gonna, maybe an observant listener might have picked up on this when you said it, but What is this no-go valley that you spoke of really quickly?
So No-Go Valley is a code name we gave a place that I cannot say the name at all of what it is. I don't really want to say too much about it. So I know there is a lot of people who will be listening and nitpicking at it and trying to figure out where it is. So we call it the Valley out of respect, and that's really all I'm going to say about it publicly.
Sure. Sounds like it could be a pretty squatchy place. Maybe we'll find out more in a future documentary episode. Who knows?
It was in my California Sabe episode, the first one I released. We went No-Go Valley place, but
we did a lot more there this time.
Yeah, we did a lot more there this time, but we call it No-Go Valley just out of respect. And I think anybody who really knows the area might know what we're talking about, but outside that, nobody's going to know. And do it that way because, like I said, it's just being respectful of people in the area and other people who go to this area too. So, yeah, that's what that is.
Absolutely. Something I like about you guys is that you do very unique research methods, and this can be anything from, Tate playing bass or a musical instrument, or you guys sometimes having, I think you had a disco ball type thing once, or even like a didgeridoo. Were you able to incorporate any unique, unorthodox methods that you can talk about this time?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I came out with a couple of things in my arsenal on this trip. One of the things I got was a hunting blind that they have blinds now that when you're looking from the outside, you can't really see anything on the inside. But then when you walk in, it's like a one-way window, and you can actually see throughout the entire wall. So we sat in some hunting blinds a few times and had some other people kind of out squatching, like knocking and whooping, and just kind of waited to see if anything approached. It was kind of cool to have that technology and to sit kind of in a blind and change our approach a little bit and go stealth, go stealth mode a few more times. But ultimately, I don't think that really, nothing really became of that. But but it's something that could work in the future. We keep utilizing that.
Yeah, for sure.
But the other thing that I think we leaned more into, because it was way more fun for us, was we had a big Bluetooth speaker and a sound activated laser light show that would generate images, like laser images of like dolphins and like women dancing and stuff. Yeah. And we project it like far up and like 100 feet away into some like big trees and play music to it. And
we're playing like 80s music, like Time Cop and stuff like that, and then we're just playing absolutely absurd songs.
Yeah.
There's one we played last night called the Fart Song.
Yeah, we camped out at a place called Beans Camp, and then we finished off our Squatch research to the Fart Song at Beans Camp.
And it's literally just like an 80s style song with just farts,
like techno and sound effects.
I'm definitely gonna have to have that linked in the show notes for sure.
They're gonna, man, it's so good. But yeah, that was the last song we played that night.
That is funny. Tell me more about Beans Camp. I don't think I've heard of this one before.
Hold on. So we have a dog encounter going on.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Take care of the dog.
You're okay, Bandit. No. Now, Beans Camp. I've known about Beans Camp since I've been coming up here, but we finally got to camp there this time. That was my first time camping there. It's a cool little campground. There's like there's 3 little camp spots. And there's like a little pond area.
Yeah, like a watering hole.
Yeah, and this is like the only fixed bathroom like you would have at a public campground in the Six Rivers or the Bluff Creek area, I would say.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, but the problem with it is there was like no refuse in the actual toilet area. So it was just water. There's a ton of mosquitoes in it. So I would spray like mosquito spray down in the hole where the toilet is, and like hundreds of mosquitoes would just come flying out. And then you saw the picture I sent earlier in the group chat, but I don't know what it is about the deer in the Bluff Creek area, man, but they're very bold. They'll come up to you like within 10 feet of you, and then this one deer a couple of nights ago in our camp, at Beans Camp, it just came right up there next to my car, and I was 2 feet away from it just filming it like nothing was going on. It was the weirdest thing, but it was really cool. So, but yeah,
that's strange.
The deer are weird out here.
Are there a lot of deer in that area?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of deer and a lot of bear kind of moving through the area. I was doing, I'd be walking along trails, game trails, and like camp trails and old roads and stuff. And I think I took hair samples from like 7 or 8 different areas out here in the Bluff Creek area that like they were banged up, chewed up trees, and there's always hairs on them. And but that's pretty typical like bear like marking. They're like marking their scent and chewing up a tree, and you see that along the game trails a lot. But it still kind of astounded me because we found a couple of them like that last year. And this year is like every camp we went to, I'd like come back to my car after like a 10-minute hike and be like, Tate, found more hairs. And I'd grab my little evidence kit and walk back out.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if anything happens. It sounds like you got some quite a bit of hair samples. That'll be cool. I don't know if you're able to send those off, or I'm sure you have some plan for those, Ron.
The good thing about, like, especially, and we found this out last year when we were at Meldrum's, and we looked at several hair samples at his lab at Idaho State University, was we realized that there were, even though the bear might have chewed up the tree to mark it in its territory and stuff, it was still on an established game trail, so other animals would brush up against the sticky resin from the bleeding sap. And so other animal hairs were found on the bear tree, essentially. So I tried to find as many different looking hairs as I could from each spot. And I think, if I start filtering through them, I might get a couple of different hair types, and I might have to compare them to what we can.
Interesting.
But, that's the thing is, a bear might have chewed up the tree and left a lot of its hair, but you might find some deer or elk or some other animal hairs on it as well, and that means Bigfoot too.
Yeah.
Guys, have you heard of any recent encounters or sightings of any sort in that area, in the areas that you were before you got there?
No, the only thing that we heard of was those tracks that Todd Samples and Doug Shea found, and we talked to them at Louse Camp. We interviewed them, so we talked about it. We went to the mile marker that they found the tracks at, and we looked, but the way Bluff Creek is, the ground is so dry and hard packed. It's not really good for tracks. It would have to be in really soft soil, like near creeks, or right near like a little pond area. Other than that, you're just going to have scuff marks in the ground that something did go through there, but you don't know what it is. So, unfortunately, finding tracks is extremely hard here. But that's why Todd and them got so lucky, is because, especially on the Go Road, it's 30 miles of road that cuts through the Bluff Creek area. So it's just like a private highway for animals, especially in the wintertime. And it'd be easier to walk that in the wintertime than walking through ridges and stuff. So a lot of animals are going to be walking on that. And it makes sense like that Sasquatches would utilize that. And it would be easier to find a track in the snow than it would anywhere else in Bluff Creek during the summer. So, yeah, I think people looking for tracks in the wintertime, especially here, might have a better chance than looking for them in the summer here.
It'll be interesting. I hope I can hope that perhaps Todd and Doug might make an appearance in one of your episodes. We'll see. Fingers crossed. It was fun talking to them on Bigfoot Society. They are just a blast. So we'll see.
Yeah, I really like them. They're cool guys. Doug Shea plays guitars. He had like 3 guitars, and we were playing some guitars with him when we got to Laos camp and everything. And he has a pretty cool rig for camping, so that was cool.
Nice.
He's like, if you're in the area, you can stay with us. I'm like, heck yeah, I will. They're pretty local. So nice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, from when I chatted with them, it's like they are the home team. They have the home team advantage. They're able to just pretty much go whenever they want, which is pretty solid that you have great researchers there that are in close proximity. This is a question for both of you guys. Do you view the area that film site area as an active Bigfoot area or a historical area that is kind of kept up as a memorial?
I think it just depends on where the Bigfoot are really at that given moment. Because you can have a really squatchy area that's known for really good activity, but they're just not there, so you're not going to get any action if you're there, It's the true thing with the whole needle in the haystack. The film site has trail cameras everywhere, so I don't know if maybe that plays a part in it or not. But I feel like the film site area is squatchy because just above that, the berm, there's some stuff that happens there that's pretty weird.
Yeah.
All that. And that's like not even a mile from as the crow flies from the film site to the berm. There's some weird things that happen there. And then above that, there's some things that happen in the cell site, which is just above that, quite literally. Just the general area, Laos Camp is only 5 miles from there as the crow flies. There's weird stuff that happens there. So the whole area is active. It just depends on what time of year you go, and then if they're there. Any time of the year, I should say, is pretty good. It just depends on if they're there or not at that time.
So this might be getting into like some of the conclusions that I draw later on, or some of the things that Chait and I will discuss in his content. But like this year, like I don't know if you've figured it out at this point, but we're still kind of going through all of our stuff, but it seems like it was a lighter year, and we're trying to figure out like what was the cause of that, and the last couple of years we had some really good activity that we felt strongly was tied to Bigfoot. And I think there's so many people that will come out and they might be a big time Colorado Bigfoot researcher or a big time Washington, and they come through Bluff Creek every now and then. And if they don't time it right, like it's easy to make that assumption that it's all squashed out. There's not a lot going on. But I think Bluff Creek has enough space and wilderness and resources to where like whatever population is here, it's not strictly bound to what we know as historical Bigfoot hotspots. And so we were looking at the map of 6 Rivers, and we realized there's a lot of conditions that are just like Bluff Creek, just a little bit to the east or a little bit up to the north before you hit the Siskiyous.
Or south or west.
Yeah, and then even beyond that is still pretty doable habitat for something like Bigfoot. You know,
Because there's a lot of fresh water. There's creeks everywhere. There's
Yeah.
berries everywhere, fresh, natural berries that Ron was eating and stuff, and so was Jonathan. And I've had them before. There's berries here. And then the trail camera photos that we saw, and then in person, we saw there's a lot of deer. The terrain is cool for them. But what is 1 million acres or more? It's something ridiculous.
I don't know. It's massive.
It's
some of the most remote country.
yeah. I mean,
like uninterrupted, like continuous.
this place is so remote. Like you can get lost very easy, and no one probably would ever find you. And that's something to be found. You know, and then you're talking about an animal that doesn't want to be found in like 1 million or something acres or more. That's gonna be very, very, very hard.
But there's something like. And before, like, this is kind of how I would sum it up is there's something about Bluff Creek where they do come back. Like, there's a couple of places I've been to as a researcher where Bigfoot research is consistent and doesn't cease. And you're talking about a century of reports. And the Bluff Creek area is one of them. And, like,
well, those tracks Todd and Doug found prove that.
Yeah, the other spot that kind of is like that for me is Falk, Arkansas. You know, you have a lot of, like, reports in there. So like I don't think that like Bigfoot's ever gonna leave like permanently. Like it's definitely not like somebody's building condos there in his own stomping grounds. Like it's still wilderness out there.
It's primitive camping. It's not like people can take RVs out there.
They're coming and going, and so one of the things that I thought I wanted to do on this trip was I wanted to find a little bit of cell service and deploy a cam to monitor an area in Bluff Creek remotely. And so successfully do that. We got a trail camera. We got 2 trail cameras out, one cellular, one non-cellular.
Yep.
And they're both in areas where we've had stuff kind of happen in the past. And one of them will give me like live updates if it ever like fires off. And so,
wow.
So that's something like hopefully we can get a little more cell reception, find different ways, different access points that have coverage, and kind of add to like what the Bluff Creek project started with their camera deployment, and start putting cell cams in appropriate areas to kind of monitor when we're halfway across or further across the United States.
Yeah, so Ron will be able to monitor that.
Yeah, from Wisconsin, I'll be getting updates about whatever's walking around.
That's incredible. How, Ron, does that, I mean, there has to be batteries involved with those, right? Or
yeah.
The cell camera is a solar charged.
Well, I got a panel on that one. So the other camera will it'll go 6 months to a year. But I've got a battery cartridge that's supposed to do better than standard batteries, and a solar panel with a battery pack in it. And so like it should work for quite some time. I'm hoping anywhere from a year to a year and a half, and then at the 2-year mark we'll go back in and we'll replace it. But I'll get low resolution photos from it. Yeah. And then the SD cards will have a higher resolution saved onto the unit itself.
Let's say you get a low resolution photo and it looks like Bigfoot, but you're halfway across the U.S. where you are. What's the game plan?
Flying out here. We're flying.
Plane
ticket. We're flying.
We know Todd.
Plane ticket. We're flying. We're flying, Ron. We're flying. Hey, you tell me about it. I'm getting on a plane. I'm flying out here.
Yeah, probably in most situations, I think I can manage one flight out. You know.
Yeah, we gotta go. We gotta go. We can't. We gotta get on that. We gotta get on that. I'm gonna just. Yep, we're gonna fly out here, Ron.
I mean, if it was me, I would be flying. I would. I mean, Todd and Doug are great, but man, if there's a Bigfoot, I'm flying out.
The area we placed, we're flying out there to get it, look for it ourselves. It's like, dude, I feel like Ron is saying, oh, we put a trail camera here. We capture a leprechaun with the pot of gold. Here, let me call a local person. There's a pot of gold up there. Go get it.
Okay.
That's what you're saying.
No, first of all, okay, if it was a good enough photo, yes, I would come out. But here's where I would call Todd. I'd call Todd because I don't know if I could secure a roadworthy rental for Bluff Creek.
I could.
Okay, then.
No, you for one, you would fly into like Sacramento or San Francisco, then they would have Jeeps there.
Yeah.
I rented a Jeep in Portland.
So, yeah, I guess we still are figuring that part out.
Man, I would walk that too. I'd walk there.
It's just a short 19 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's 19, no problem.
We'll borrow Richard's Prius. Take it up.
Guys, last question, and I appreciate you hanging out with me for it's almost to an hour already. It's gone by quick, but what's next for you guys? Do you guys have plans for future research expeditions already, or what's coming up?
Pretty much. Sasquatch Search for Sabe is going international next year. So our first out of the country episode will be filmed next year.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. Is we're looking at a spot that is infamous for Sasquatch activity, but for whatever reason, people haven't really been out to it all that much.
But yeah, I mean, my plan is to go there regardless. I'm already skipping out on Bluff Creek to do it, so I'm too invested in it to not pull the trigger on.
Wow, if you're skipping out on Bluff Creek, it must be something pretty special.
So yeah, that's the plan.
But that's more on that later. I guess the thing that immediately, like we just spent 3 weeks at Bluff Creek.
We're not even done with the California run.
And we got a couple of spots that before I met these guys around Louse Camp and the Bluff Creek area, I had a couple of spots. So like the next couple of nights, I guess the next 3-4 nights, we're going to be like in some areas where I kind of started my Bigfooting. Like in 2010, there was a spot that I heard some interesting knocks while I was waiting at a trailhead for somebody to come and pick me up out of the Trinity Alps. And we're going to check the status of that area and see about going out there. Then from there, we're going to where I saw something that I thought was possibly a Sasquatch in 2018 while hiking the Bigfoot Trail. And Kate's going to be the first person, like in our group, besides myself and Bandit, to check that area out. And then we're doing Southern California
for a couple of days.
Kate's thermal spot, and then we're wrapping it up.
Yeah, and then we wrap it up in Iowa with you.
Oh, with me.
Jeremiah, me and a few other friends of mine who are not Bigfooters, but there's actually one other person joining us that is a Bigfooter with the BFRO, and then there's a couple people, like 3 other people that aren't.
Yeah, let's hope everyone.
I hope so. I'm extremely excited about. I mean, it's just a few weekends away. I'm super excited about it.
It's crazy. You know what's crazy is when you're up in the mountains, you lose track of time. How sometimes you don't even know what day it is or how many days you have left. And when things have been going the way they are, the days are long here. I would say pretty fair assessment, in my opinion. But yeah.
I'm excited to see both of you guys, and it'll be my first time being able to do some expedition work with Ron, so that'll be a good time. But I appreciate you both coming back on for a post-expedition interview. This has been a fun time. Do you guys mind sharing where people can keep up to date with what you've been putting out with different Bigfoot-related things?
Yeah, so right now my platform is just a Facebook page where I put a lot of links to my other stuff. I got a YouTube account, but it's my name, Ron Reed. and that's RONREAD. I don't know how easily people will find it, but I think if you search that name with like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, then it should pop up there. But then, yeah, all of that stuff gets shared on my Facebook page. If anybody has Facebook, it's Trailing Giants is the Facebook page.
And then me, it's just Tate Hieronymus, HIERONYMUS. Just my name. It's on YouTube and Facebook, and if you look my name up, you'll see all the podcasts I'm probably on and all that.
And make sure you watch the Iowa episode, because I hear it's the highest viewed one. So I don't know why. Guys, I'll be seeing you in a few weeks, and have a good time with the last few nights out there in California, guys.
We shall.
All right.
Thanks for coming on. Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.